The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, greed for money, for love, for knowledge, has marked the upward surge in mankind. And greed, you mark my words, will not only save Telda paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much. These are not my words. These are the words of Gordon Gekko, Michael Douglas's character in the film Wall Street, making his argument for why greed is good. Today, greed seems to be good. Donald Trump, before he was president of the United States of America, said this: "The point is, you cannot be too greedy." Our city here in London is one of the financial capitals of the world, where bankers can make millions, where every house on the street that our church is on is worth more than £2 million, where we're almost encouraged to be greedy because if you snooze, you lose. You're priced out. If you don't have the money, how are you going to send your children to the right schools? Our global city culture tells us that we need more. The next house, the next job, the next electric car, the next gadget, the next church even, just more. And this morning, we're continuing our series here at Ascension on health. We are thinking this morning about financial health and what Jesus has to say about financial health. And 2,000 years ago, Jesus, in this parable from Luke chapter 12, says, "No, you have got it wrong." A man comes to Jesus saying, "My brother won't give me my half of my inheritance. Tell him to do so, Jesus." As a vicar, I've seen more families break up and break down because of arguments about money, especially after someone has died, than I can fit on both hands. And people are often relying on inheritance for their security, and they will fight tooth and nail to get it. And Jesus sees straight into this man's heart and into his brother's heart even as they argue over money. And he can see that the root issue in their lives is actually greed, the desire for more. And it gives Jesus an opportunity here to teach about the danger of greed. In Luke 12, verse 15, Jesus says this: "Watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed." In other words, he's saying, watch out, have a look at yourself. All kinds of greed. What Jesus is saying is there's different versions of greed. And even Gordon Gekko knows that. He says greed in all of its form. Greed for life, for money, for love, for knowledge. Gordon Gekko knew there were different types of greed. So in what ways do you need to watch out for greed today? Where are you just itching for more? I need more. I need more. And then Jesus goes on. He says, life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Now, this is critical information for people like you and me in the world we live in right now. Jesus is telling us a truth statement. He's saying that life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Jesus is telling us that if we feel that the race to accumulate is what life is about, we have made a heinous error and a big mistake, because that is not the purpose of life. And then he goes on to tell a parable, a story about a man who thought that that indeed was the purpose of life, who thought that he who finishes with the most toys wins. The man in the parable is a farmer, And this farmer has a bumper crop. And he doesn't think about anyone else. He just thinks, great, I've got a bumper crop. I need to build bigger barns to put this crop in. I'm sorted for life. I can now eat, drink, and be merry because I am fire. Now, it doesn't say fire. Do you know what fire means? Apparently, it means financially independent, retiring early. And so many people apparently are trying to be fire nowadays, financially independent, retiring early. And the farmer in this parable has achieved what so many people here in London are trying to achieve, to store up so much that they can sit back, relax, and enjoy the benefits of wealth. And this Jesus says to this farmer and to us, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you've prepared for yourself? At the funeral of the fabulously wealthy Aristotle Onassis, one of the mourners turned to another and said, I wonder how much Mr. Onassis left. And the friend replied, everything. He left everything. Don't be a fool like the farmer. Jesus then goes on to reveal what the true game of life is about, what the true purpose of life is about. In verse 21, he says, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Jesus is telling us that the true purpose is not the race to accumulate, but to be rich towards God. The true purpose of life is not greed, but generosity. And it's interesting to note that the opposite of greed is not actually poverty, but generosity. There's nothing actually inherently wrong with money. There's nothing inherently wrong with physical stuff. Christianity is the most physical of all the religions. We believe that Jesus came and inhabited a body, a physical body, that he dignified physical objects. He ate, he drank, he enjoyed physical things, a lovely glass of wine. Eating and drinking, these in themselves are really good. So physical stuff isn't bad, it's what we do with it. And in the Bible, wealthy people are not commanded to be poor, but to become generous. You see, poverty actually is no guarantee of goodness. You can have very poor people who actually are struggling with greed. They just want more and more. But it's generosity that is the guarantee of goodness. And there's a couple of main issues with greed. Greed is that it takes away from others. That's one of its issue. The farmer in the parable didn't think about anyone else. He didn't think that someone else might be hungry without grain to feed themselves. He just thought about himself. And therefore, one of the problems with greed is that it stifles our ability to love those in need. The second issue with greed is that it actually impacts us living the best life we can live, because it feeds into a lie that if we accumulate enough, we can be self-sufficient. We won't need God. We won't need anything else. Once we stack up all our chips, we're going to be fine. But actually we're not, because no matter how much we accumulate, it's never enough. It never fills the hole in the soul. Jim Carrey, the incredibly successful actor, said this. He said, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer. Yes, we need physical things, but we need more than physical things. And Jesus is saying that life is about turning from greed to generosity, that we are called to live generous lives. So I want to talk about 3 ways that we can live lives of generosity. And the first 2 are to do with the way we see things. The first one is to recognize that everything we have is gift. Everything is gift. I just want you to breathe in now. That air is gift. It's free for us to enjoy. Look at your hands. Look at your fingers. The most intricate things ever. Scientists still can't replicate precisely what fingers do. Hands, bodies, gift. They're gift. Did you have a great cup of coffee this morning, or a delicious cup of tea first thing? Gift. It's a gift that has been given to us. If you have a roof over your head, if you have food on your plate, clothes in your wardrobe, money in your pocket, time to even be watching me speaking now, it's all a gift. And once we recognize that everything we have is gift, not a right, but a gift, these things tend to take on a different meaning. I know people who say, Marcus, I've worked blooming hard to get what I've got. Well done. But who gave you the health to do that? Who gave you the resilience to do that? Who gave you the opportunity to do that? Who gave you the upbringing to do that? Who gave you the genetics to do that? Who gave you the education to do that? Who gave you maybe an inheritance to do that? No one is self-made. It's all gift. And I know plenty of people who work incredibly hard, harder than any of us, who receive nothing materially. So working hard is not the determinant of all we have. It's gift. The fact that you were born in a country with running water and sanitization is a gift. 140 million babies are born a year globally. That means that the fact that you've been born in the UK, if you have been born in the UK, means that you are statistically 1 in 200. It's a gift that we're born here, as opposed to somewhere in a slum. What about the fact that you've got life itself? When two people come together, the sperm fuses with the egg. And at that moment, that sperm is 1 of 100 million. You are not 1 in a million, 1 in 100 million. Your life is truly gift. And in our passage in verse 16, Jesus says this: the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. How fortunate for that farmer that the ground yielded the harvest, that the ground was really fertile. It was a gift. It wasn't due to his doing. The ground was a gift. I'm sure there are many other farmers who would have loved to have had a ground that gave such a yield. Everything we have is gift. In fact, Christianity has been defined in one way as a kind of giving. Jesus, we believe as Christians, has given himself to us as a gift. That he has died for us, risen again for us, so that we may live with him forever as a gift, not because of anything we've done. And recognizing that everything is gift loosens the chains of greed in our lives. We start to realize, wow. But the second way of thinking, as well as that everything is gift, goes even further. And it's this: recognize that everything is on loan. You own nothing. Nothing is owned, but loaned. The word my and myself make it into this parable more than any other parable. Verse 18, it says this: then the farmer said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and I will store up my surplus grain. And I will say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. And we live under an illusion that we own things, and we don't. Everything is on loan to us from God, including our very bodies. And Jesus says to the farmer in verse 20, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. The rich fool did not realize that he owned nothing. All he had, even his life, was on loan and could be called in at any time. And it's the same for us. Our lives could be called in at any time because they are on loan. That is a really big countercultural thought, that our lives are not our own, but on loan. The radical teaching of Jesus here is that in real terms, we do not own anything at all. Our job is simply to use well what we've been given for this season and then give back the gifts to others and to use them for God's glory. If I own anything, it's simply that God's loaned it to me for a period of time to use it for his purposes, to bless other people through it. The Screwtape Letters is a fiction written by C.S. Lewis, where there's a senior devil teaching a junior devil what to do. And this is one excerpt that I absolutely love. It says this: "The sense of ownership in human beings is always to be encouraged. The humans are always putting up claims to ownership that sound equally funny in heaven and in hell, and we must keep them doing so. And all the time, the joke is that word mine. In its fully possessive sense, it cannot be uttered by a human being about anything. In the long run, either our father, Satan, or the enemy, God, will say mine, of each thing that exists, and especially of each person. They will find out in the end, never fear, to whom their time, their souls, and their bodies really belong. Certainly not to them, whatever happens. At present, the enemy, God, says mine of everything, on the pedantic, legalistic ground that he made it. Our father, the devil, hopes in the end to say mine of all things on the more realistic and dynamic ground of conquest. Our possessions, our lives, are to be used, not kept, loaned, not owned. And I look after things far better if they're not mine. A friend of mine once lent me his Porsche 911, and I looked after it really well because it wasn't mine. And I actually used it to give lifts to loads of people. They loved it. And then I happily was able to let it go and give it back because it wasn't mine. I did give it back just before it needed servicing. The freedom to give generously and to live free from anxiety is founded on the conviction that not just our things, but our very selves belong to God. We recognize it is all gift. We recognize that everything is on loan. And then finally, practice generosity. There is a huge joy to practicing generosity. Here at Ascension, we have a sixth form college directly opposite the church. And for the whole of September, we have handed out vouchers saying free drinks at our parish coffee shop, which is our coffee shop here at Ascension. And these sixth formers say, "You mean free?" And we say, "Yeah, free." They say, "What, we don't pay?" And we say, "That's right, free." And they come in and they receive free drinks and there is no catch. And it's just wonderful practicing generosity. Maybe this is time for all of us to step up with our generosity. Maybe with your time. We're hoping possibly to start running a dinner service for homeless people over the winter. This is something we're looking at, but we're going to need people to volunteer for that. Maybe you want to be generous with your time. Maybe it's about being even more generous with your financial giving. When was the last time that you reviewed how much you gave to the work here of the Church of the Ascension? Maybe it's time to review that and say, I want to be even more generous. I don't even own it. I don't even own my own money. It's not even mine. I want to give more of it away back to God. Maybe it's just time to look around and give away more of what we have to bless and love our neighbours. If you want help in knowing how you can be even more generous, email us at the church office and we've got loads of ways that we can help you practice the art of generosity. Living from a place of gift, knowing that everything is gift, knowing that everything is on loan, not owned, will lead us into this place of generosity. And it will give us freedom. It will set us free from financial insecurity. It will set us free from the need to acquire more and more. It will set us free from that feeling of failure and inadequacy because others have accumulated more than us. Living generously gives us the freedom to live a life of purpose, the life that Jesus wants us to live, loving our neighbours here in Balham and beyond.